All you need is a good grasp on the supply and the demand for the currency. Okay. The second system that a country can use is called a fixed exchange rate system. In a fixed exchange rate system, the demand and supply no longer determines the the exchange rate. So over here in this one, the government or the central bank, basically it is the central bank, determines the exchange rate. How do they do that? Well, they decide. So for example, if you have the demand and supply for a currency. Now remember, demand and supply is always there. Exchange rate kya set hota hai, that's a different thing. Because there will always be people demanding dollars, there will be always reasons for supplying dollars and coming up with the market exchange rate. Lekin, in a fixed exchange rate, the government decides where they want to set it up. Let's suppose right now, on the basis of demand supply, the government decides, okay, this is where we want to fix it. They have fixed the exchange rate or pegged it at point A. Okay? Now, whatever happens to demand and supply doesn't matter. The government is going to have said it that whenever you want dollars, you can get it for this specific rate, no matter what. Let's suppose that exports in United States increases. Americans are exporting more. That will cause the demand for dollar to go up. Okay? And in a normal freely floating exchange rate system, the dollar would have appreciated. Why? Because this is what had happened. If I did not have this fixed, let's suppose I'm removing this line that they haven't fixed it. What's happening now? This was the original exchange rate. When demand increased, उसी exchange rate के ऊपर, this is the supply and the new demand has increased. There is more demand for dollars than supply, which is going to create a shortage of dollars in the market. And so the rate of dollar is going to go up. However, in this case, you have a fixed exchange rate system, and even though there is a shortage right over here, right, there is a shortage because the demand has increased as compared to supply, there is an upward pressure on the dollar, but since the government has said dollar ka rate yahi rahega, they have to bring this equilibrium down somehow. How will they do that? Well, the central bank is going to sell dollars and buy foreign currency. And when they do that, the supply for dollars is going to increase because they're selling it. And as a result, the exchange rate is managed. Okay, they've been able to deal with this problem. Okay, so every time, this is what the central bank is going to do if there is an upward pressure. Okay, they can choose another thing. If there is an upward pressure, they can decide to revalue the currency also. They decide to take the fixed exchange rate upar at point B where the intersection is coming, and they can make their currency go stronger. This is called revaluation. The central bank decided that let's take it up. So there are two decisions that can be made. One is if you want to maintain the exchange rate at the original fixed point, then you have to sell your currency, you have to increase the supply of it. In return, you can buy foreign currency reserves you can use later on, and you bring the currency back down to the original exchange rate and remove the upward pressure. Or you could just simply decide that since our currency has an upward pressure, let's revalue it, let's make it stronger. Okay, now there could be a lot of negative points for doing that. For example, if you make your currency stronger, your trade can get hurt, right? The foreigners might get discouraged in buying your products because they're expensive, so that can hurt your trade. But on the other hand, it will help your economy be more stronger, more confident, and more stable as well. Okay. On the other hand, if the case is slightly different, the case is that the central bank has fixed the currency at point A over here, okay, and for some reason the demand for the currency falls. Okay, you're exporting less. Okay, so obviously what's happening is that at original point the demand is less now and the supply is great for the currency, leading to a surplus of the currency. Okay, there is a surplus of dollars right here in the market. So what the government is going to do in this case is, since there is a surplus and there is a depreciation pressure on the value of the currency, basically what they're going to do is they're going to go into the international market, because there is a downward pressure on the currency. They will go and they will buy the dollars from the international market, and return they will sell the foreign currency reserves they held. Now there is a contradiction that you might come across in certain books. Okay, in some places when you are going to buy the dollar, they might show that the supply for dollar is going to fall in the exchange rate market. Okay, one of the results that it might show is something like this, and your exchange rate settles at point C at the original exchange rate, and the downward pressure is gone away because you bought the currency. In some places you will come across a situation then where they will say that when you are buying dollars from international market, the demand for dollar is going to rise, and this D1 will go back to its original point and the markets will go back to point A. Okay, now I've seen it in marking scheme. They have dealt it with this case, causing, when you're buying your own currency back, they're causing the demand for the currency to rise. Okay, but in some books, they are dealing it the way I just mentioned, that buying of dollar would mean that the supply of dollar is going to fall. I would like you to stick with this one. Okay, so any kind of downward pressure, the main thing is you need to know this: when you're buying your currency and when you're selling your currency, okay, in exchange for the foreign currencies. And that's how you deal with our second case of the exchange rate system.